Hello, everyone. I have the pleasure of having
Sonia.
Sonia. Sonia, you're from?
Rome.
Like me, but we're speaking English, right?
English for now.
So this is going to be an interesting interview. We're going to do this interview in English, but also in our native language, il bellissimo italiano. Sonia, come stai?
Oh mio Dio, già abbiamo cambiato!
That's exactly right. We're going to confuse you people.
You're going to confuse me.
I'm going to confuse myself. Anyway, so Sonia speaks a bunch of languages, right?
Kind of.
Kind of. So what is the first language you learned?
Italian, because it's my native language.
Yes. The second?
English.
English.
Yeah. I started in kindergarten, so
kindergarten.
Really, little.
And why is it that you have an American accent?
Because I like it. So I've always loved rap music.
Mhm.
I love rap music. So even when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, Eminem, 50 Cent, da 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 da. And I was studying.
Mhm.
That was before internet. You know, like I'm 35.
35.
I know,
Okay.
you can't tell.
No, can't tell. I thought you were like 22.
Really?
Eh.
No,
No,
it's a lie.
Ma
No,
forse al massimo 20, 24. Dai, sto scherzando. 23, 20, no, 23, tra i 23 e i 25.
Bugia.
È vero.
Quindi anche da piccola io mi mettevo lì col dizionario di carta e studiavo e mi ascoltavo poi Eminem e quindi alla fine poi ho preso l'accento americano perché mi piace di più.
Lo sai fare un po' di accento anche britannico o no?
No.
No, neanche io. A dire la verità ci provo, ma Richard, famoso poliglotta, mi bastona tutto il tempo e dice no, il tuo accento inglese e britannico fa schifo. Anyway, it's interesting because there's not a lot of Italians who speak English well, and on top of that, you have a great accent. So let's talk about that, because I think it's a very interesting topic. Apart from the fact you speak English really well, what happened that you developed this accent? Like, for example, something that happened to me was that when I started speaking well, people were mocking me, like at school.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Does this happen
Oh,
to you?
yeah. They were making fun of me like, oh, you think you're American? Because I was like trying, right? Like, you gotta try. I'm a native Italian speaker. My parents are from Rome. They don't speak English at all. So I had to try. And my friends were like, I didn't care. I love music in general. Like, I'm a musician. So I studied like a lot of music, like music academy. And I think that's why I have a good accent.
Penso che si parla del famoso orecchio musicale. E se ti piace la musica, perché le lingue sono musica, io adoro la musica, adoro anch'io, ho cominciato suonando per esempio il pianoforte, poi ho abbandonato, shame on me, come si direbbe. Come si dice shame on me in italiano? Aspetta, fammi pensare. Vergogna a me? No. Non ti vergogni? No, dovrei vergognarmi, non lo so.
Vergogna.
Vergogna. Anyway, so it's important to stress that sometimes when people talk about getting a great accent, the problem is more psychological in my book, right? But you've overcome that in a brilliant way, so that's fantastic. And the reason why we're having this interview is like because we want to talk. You're also a polyglot, because I think a person who speaks 3, 4, 5 languages is a polyglot. But I'm also very interested in knowing how you approach languages from a psychological point of view, but also from a technical point of view. So you said that you like music, right? So you were listening to rap.
Music.
Right?
Yeah, but I'm a singer, so I was a singer.
Mhm.
You know, I used to sing with Orchestra Casa Dei
Oh, wow.
for like 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Didn't know that. Okay, so
Sorry.
So no, I mean, this really helped. Did this help you with pronunciation and identity,
lot.
right? And then did you go to the United States, or you learned most of what you know at home, or?
I'd say mainly I learned in Italy because I studied like BA, MA here in Rome.
Mhm.
But then I did spend like an amount of time in the US because my ex-husband was American.
Okay. You're
Yeah.
full of surprises. Okay.
I know, but this is frustrating because every time I say like, oh, I speak English. Why do you speak English? Oh, because I studied a lot, because I love music, because da 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 da. They're like, And then I'm like, oh, also my ex-husband was American. They're like, oh, that's why you speak English. And I'm like, well, no.
Although I didn't say that. I said I was surprised that you had a husband from the
know.
United States. And where do you live in the States?
Colorado.
In Colorado.
And
Okay.
Tampa.
And Tampa. Ok, quindi ha aiutato, ma non è la ragione principale per la quale parli inglese. Cioè, io dico sempre sì, ho avuto un'insegnante americana, ho parlato con un sacco di amici, ma
È il tempo, è l'impegno, è quanto ti piace. Io poi mi mettevo, quando ero piccola, a fare le traduzioni dei film, i sottotitoli.
Uguale.
C'erano tipo le crew, quelle che facevano i sottotitoli quando ancora non c'era Netflix, e io mi ci mettevo, cioè fa tanto, e poi tanto impari insegnando, perché tu arrivi che comunque sai di essere italiano e c'è una sindrome dell'impostore gigante,
enorme, gigantesca,
gigante, quindi vuoi essere il più perfetto possibile, quindi, ma io ancora adesso faccio lezioni di inglese, cioè
No, è vero, anche io, stessa cosa. That's true. When you teach, you also learn a lot. You have to pay attention to details and pronunciation, intonation, etc. Okay, but this is only the first language, right?
Yeah.
Now we got a few other languages. So we start with English, you're Italian. What other languages do you speak well, and what does it mean for you to speak a language well?
I speak Spanish, like very, very, very well.
Y elegí Gran Canaria y pensaba quedarme un mes, pero después de un mes dije, a mí me gusta aquí y ya llevo 2 años aquí.
But that's
very, very, very well. 3 times.
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like nobody knows, because I always speak Italian and English, but I speak Spanish really well. And
Español canario.
Español canario, argentino. A mí me gusta el argentino. ¿Y a vos?
Argentino. A mí me gusta el acento castizo porque nací en Italia, pero siempre he hablado muchísimo, casi solo con españoles. Entonces se me ha pegado ese acento, este acentazo, y se ha quedado ahí en la cabeza. Nada.
Pero yo así no puedo.
¿Cómo
¿Inglés?
Que no puedes? ¿Cómo que no puedes?
This switch, that's too much. 3 languages?
Okay. No, we're going to do 4 now.
No.
I'm kidding. We haven't talked about Japanese yet. That's going to happen. Anyway.
2,
okay.
for now.
Ok, de todos modos.
Basta, vado in tilt.
Allora, dunque, come stavamo dicendo, quindi che
Spagnolo.
Lo spagnolo lo parli molto, molto, molto bene.
Perché la gente non lo sa. Perché l'ho studiato all'università, sia alla triennale che alla magistrale, quindi in realtà ho la laurea anche in spagnolo. E poi sono stata alle Canarie quasi 4 anni.
3 decenni.
Cioè, ho avuto 2 ex fidanzati, uno canario, uno argentino. Quindi...
Los idiomas se aprenden en la cuna o en la cama, se dice. ¿Es verdad?
No, giocavamo con le bambole.
Vediamo così, sì, giocare con le bambole. Vediamo cosa tagliare e cosa no.
Vabbè, fa ridere.
In romano si dice buttarla in caciara, quindi.
E quindi in realtà sì, con lo spagnolo è stato sia studio, tanto studio, poi l'avevo abbandonato un pochino perché non trovo la motivazione di... Tanto stavo negli Stati Uniti, lavoravo con l'inglese, poi quando sono andata alle Canarie ho ritrovato la motivazione.
Certo, me lo posso immaginare. Ok, quindi...
Senti, prima parlavi svedesi che sei portato a casa a far festa, cioè, mo...
Okay, so we were saying Spanish, English, Spanish. Is there any other language that you speak well?
Nihongo.
Nihongo.
Not well. Okay, so English, Spanish, Italian, I'd say like I can talk about pretty much anything. Japanese, I'd say it's intermediate. I cannot talk about just anything. There are topics that I'm like, I don't have the vocabulary, even though I lived there for 3 years. It was very difficult for me. I moved to Japan and I didn't know Japanese at all. I knew like, ikura desu ka, doko desu ka, just like basic Japanese. So I studied it for 6 months, but at the same time I was working part-time and I didn't really know much about the grammar.
Right.
So then I started working full-time and I learned Japanese with my roommates because I had Japanese roommates. So my Japanese now is like, I understand it pretty well.
So you speak Japanese?
やってみたいんですけど、わからなかったら英語で話しましょう。
大丈夫。
I can talk intermediate level, but it took me a year before I could start speaking. I was stuck. That was new to me. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm so good. English, Spanish, French, because I studied a little bit of French in school. I was like, yeah, it's all good. And in Japan, I was like, oh my God. I'm terrible.
God. The same thing happened to me when it comes to Japanese. It's such a difficult language because it's different, right? It's different. The syntax, the like words all over the place. And that's why I dropped Japanese back in the day, 14 years ago. Now I'm back with a vengeance. However, I understand that it's difficult. And this is an important thing to say, that a lot of people think that if you're a polyglot and you have a lot of languages under your belt, so it's going to be like a breeze just to learn yet another language. And that is not necessarily true, because if you learn a language that is not, doesn't belong to the language families that, you've already gone through, then we got a problem, as they say, and then it's a little bit more difficult. But you made it. Now you speak at an intermediate level, and then once you have an intermediate level, you can already communicate. I think it's going to be relatively easy to bring it to the next level if you have a chance of using it.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance of using it maybe also online?
I go to Japan like 3 months a year, usually.
3 months for 3 months in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and also like I'd like to start my company in Japan, so I applied for a Japanese visa. I don't know what's gonna happen now. Like they're still processing my visa, so I'm not sure.
Ah, quindi vuoi tornare in Giappone?
Io voglio tornare in Giappone.
Pure io ci voglio andare, ma tornare no, però ci voglio andare, almeno un paio di mesi.
For good, cioè io ci voglio proprio andare.
Tu ti vuoi trasferire, abbandonare proprio questo mondo e dire Europa, ciao, noi ci vediamo in Giappone.
Beh, io voglio fare una cosa interessante, cioè voglio aprire la mia azienda, quindi non devo richiedere le ferie a nessuno, quindi quando voglio tornare in Italia, se voglio passare 3-4 mesi in Italia, posso, però vivo in Giappone. Quindi vorrei fare questa cosa, perché per lavorare per un'azienda giapponese non lo farò più.
Ok, quindi hai avuto anche un'esperienza di lavoro in Giappone. So you lived in Japan and you think it's a little bit
too much
aggressive in the sense that I've heard, for example, that in Korea and Japan you work too much and people are exhausted.
Yeah.
So is that
yeah.
that's
no
the
sick
case?
leave, 10 days off a year, and I couldn't even take the 10 days like off because my boss wanted me to work. So he was like, no, you can get 8, but I'll pay for the like 2 days that you don't get.
No, beh, soprattutto per noi italiani, cioè gli italiani non vivono per lavorare, gli americani forse vivono per lavorare, scusate americani, è un cliché pazzesco, però se ci pensi molte persone nel mondo hanno forse 10 giorni di vacanze, noi abbiamo 2 mesi, adesso non mi ricordo, cioè in Italia ci sono tante cose che non vanno, ma la cosa che va è che ci godiamo la vita, no?
Poi non c'era flessibilità. Io una cosa che ho notato è che io ero tanto flessibile nel mio lavoro in Giappone perché tantissimo overtime, non pagato ovviamente, però dicevo ok, tipo do ut des, poi mi ridarai. Invece quando ho chiesto al mio capo 20 minuti per andare a prendere il treno una volta, 20, ci ha pensato mezza giornata e poi ci ha pensato e poi mi ha detto che lunedì sarei dovuta arrivare mezz'ora prima. Tanto io arrivavo comunque sempre mezz'ora prima, però la richiesta mi ci ha fatto proprio rimanere male.
Sì, I can imagine that. But I can imagine the whole thing. Because the Japanese, in Japan, I've heard it's difficult to say no. So you don't say no directly. You have to circumvent the problem. Okay. Anyway, so, okay, these are the languages in which you had a lot of experiences. You speak well. What about languages? Is there any other language that you try to learn and maybe...
I had to learn French because I studied it in school, high school, 5 years, 5 hours a week. That's like standard Italian language high school. It was easy for me. Didn't really like it, so I completely abandoned it when I could. When I had the chance, I was like, bye.
Ok, quindi la scintilla non era scattata col francese.
Proprio è scattata la scintilla. E cinese, ho fatto quando avevo 14 anni, 2 anni, a scuola c'era in Via dei Mille, l'unica scuola che
la famosa scuola di Via dei Mille.
Faceva cinese. È stato interessante perché era la prima lingua tonale per me, quindi è stato un nuovo mondo. E al tempo io uscivo, la mia comitiva era tutta di cinesi, c'erano italiani, però con genitori cinesi, quindi quando andavo a casa loro la mamma mi diceva e io tipo, cosa dice, non capisco, e quindi mi sono fatta questi 2 annetti che poi ero pure brava e ho perso quasi tutto. Mi ricordo solo poche frasi e dico ma perché?
Capita, dai, non tutte le ciambelle escono col buco, si dice, no? Quindi
20 anni fa.
Ma ci ritorni sul cinese o no, prima o poi?
Ci sono ritornata durante il Covid, perché lì mi era ritornato, tipo, aspetta, lo rifacciamo. Però durante il Covid, non so te, ma io lavoravo così tanto,
certo,
che poi non ce l'ho fatta, stai dietro, quindi l'ho riabbandonato. È stato abbandonato 2 volte il mio povero cinese.
Poor Chinese. Mandarin Chinese is an important language to learn.
Right.
Anyway, okay, so is there any other language you want to learn?
I want to learn. Well, I'd like to improve my Japanese because I love to have like a very, very, very good
high level. So good, in fact, that people mistake you for a Japanese. It's gotta be difficult because you don't love Japanese, but I'm pretty sure.
But next Chinese. And then I'm thinking about Portuguese, because Portuguese, like Brazilian Portuguese, is like so... Yay.
Yeah. Ok, beh, io direi che per adesso è tutto. Grazie Sonia, grazie dell'intervista, spero vi sia piaciuta. Abbiamo mischiato un po' di lingue, ma questo è il bello